Forgot to turn that off. Well, I really need to make myself an intro. That was about as cheesy as you can get right there. But at any rate, hey everyone, welcome to the show tonight. Tonight we've got a cool guest on, somebody here on YouTube, watched a bunch of his videos, and has just got some really cool stuff. So, and I always like to bring in new people and get their perspectives on everything. It seems like from what I've watched, we're fairly aligned on everything. And, but at any rate, before we get into, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things tonight. We're going to talk about some air filtration, which was kind of a late addition. We're going to talk about prepper anxiety, and then just the state of things, I suppose. And that could go 100 different directions. And anybody in the chat, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, we'll try to get to you. But before we get into all that, I want you to explain, let everyone know what you are, what you're doing, where you're at. I've got the links below so you guys can check all those out as well. But what's your channel about? Whatever you want to tell people, go, just time to sell yourself, I suppose.
Well, I'm the local prepper. Some people call me OP. Other people know my name. It's not too important. I've been a prepper since around mid 2008. And the channel that I run is localprepper.net, and I'm on all the platforms like everybody else. My background is pretty simple. I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. I did a year as a government contractor doing the same stuff that your buddy does, or your buddy did.
Oh yeah.
And decided that the company was falling apart. It was really dark water. And after about a year of making lots and lots of money, but almost getting dead too many times, I decided I was going to spend another 12 years as a DoD contractor doing other things with other people in other places. So I've basically been a prepper for 30 plus years, but never really got into it until around 2008. Now my goal is normally just to help everybody. I will run a small community, and the goal is just to get them to the highest possible level of preparedness as possible, and thus became the local prepper. Hopefully that answers all your questions.
Yeah, it does. And I'll tell you what, if you're not subscribed to his channel, head over there and subscribe. You'll see that, right now he's up and coming. But like you'll be looking back in a year or so from now going, man, I remember when this guy was small. I remember when I could get in the chat of one of his live streams and he'd actually answer my question.
Somebody recognized me. They called me Sparky. I'm pretty sure I know who that is.
Sparky.
Yeah,
FSP, called you Sparky.
Yeah, there's another YouTuber out there, Farmer's Son Prepper, I think. And every time I would come into his live stream, I'd go, "What's going on, Sparky?" And he would just laugh. So, all right, but I digress. Anyway, let's knock this out.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta turn that off. I'm just randomly hitting comments, and they're talking to each other, and I'm throwing them up on screen. Anyway, Liberated Lady, Vision, everyone in the chat, welcome. So I suppose what we'll do. Since I was just talking about your channel and your videos and all that, I've got a clip. You just did a video about air filtration. And I think that's it's kind of a cool subject just for the fact that when you're talking about bug out bags or even just prepping in general, you don't hear a lot about, air safety and air filtration and, we talk about nuclear bombs all the time and everybody just thinks, gas mask, but there are a lot of different levels to that. And you just did a video, right, where you went through basically I don't want to necessarily say the smallest, but the most convenient to the high end, right?
Yeah, correct.
I've got this video. This is just a clip of what you were talking about one of them yesterday, and I believe this is the GVS something mask.
60. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll play this real quick.
Next up is the GVS SPR 660 Ellipse Integral Low Profile Mask with goggles. This actually is going to be the replacement for my Breathe Buddy respirator that I just showed you. This mask runs about $58 on Amazon. It uses the same PD100 technology. It's lightweight. It's going to protect your eyes. It's going to protect your nose, your mouth, and your airways. It is not a full face respirator. Now, this mask uses what's called the OVP P100 filters, which are strong protection for universal gases, nanoparticles, organic vapors, and 99.7% of the particulates down to 0.3 microns, which basically means if the train wrecks near your house, you put this on, you can escape and you won't have any brain damage. And of course, that's a joke. What I really like about this mask is it does offer eye protection. It is just a little heavier than the Breathe Buddy, but it has these protective covers over the filters that you can literally pop on and off. You pop this sucker on your face, you pull that out. You probably can see it down inside here. You can pop those out right there, and they're going to basically protect the filter from any damage, any dust building up, anything like that before any use.
All right, so when it comes to all of those filters, and you must have like a display case for all 500 different types of face masks and filters you have.
No, I actually have more packs than I have gas masks.
Oh, do you?
But that's another story. That's another story. Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's everybody wants to be completely protected, but the problem is that a true military grade field protective mask is extremely expensive. You know, even if you got like like we were talking before we started this, the Mirror Safety, they make they're top of the line. They make the best ones on the market. They're if you bought a gas mask for the Ukrainian army, they're the ones making them for them. So that's where you're going to find those. You're going to be talking about, basically NBC 77 level protection, both, everything from particle to gas, nanotech, everything is going to get filtered out in those big ass 40 millimeter filters. That's the military size. So, everybody wants to have that level of protection, but that sometimes they don't understand that they just don't need that level of protection, because that's designed to filter out nerve agents, blood blister, everything down to the smallest particle possible. And even then, they don't understand that if you, God forbid, were ever in that environment and you just happen to get a suit on fast enough, and you just happen to get a mask on fast enough, that you're going to you're going to only have that protection for as long as that filter will last. And depending on the agent, you know what I'm saying? And then then you go down to the rabbit hole with how many filters do you have, and can you get out of there long? You know what I'm saying? You're pretty much gone.
Yeah.
At that level. But when we start talking about the things that are in our environment today, the threat of nuclear fallout, okay, or radioactive fallout, then you're basically going to be looking at about 15 minutes to get everything right, unless you're in the blast zone, unless you were directly irradiated. You know what I'm saying? And you have about 15 minutes to get yourself where you need to be, to get underneath a roof, because at that point you're actually protected from the radiation once you get under a roof. So having this giant mask, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of overkill for our environment. The other thing that's in our environment today is, like I jokingly said, the trains that are falling off the tracks. We all know about the one that happened, and lots of mistakes were made, and that little town is probably gone forever. Just no one's actually saying it yet. But the reality is that people breathe those vapors. Those were natural vapors that could have easily been kept from taking into your body through your respiratory system with a simple P100 level filter. And that's what most of the masks that you saw in that video are. So, I think it's important to add that I've just recently added that to my bug out bag, because it's important. You don't know where you're going to be, and it should be you should be preparing for the threat that is possible. Or should I say that's more realistic or probable? Is it probable that we're going to get hit with a nerve agent attack in the middle of America? Yeah, that's not likely. So we don't really need that giant mask. Is basically what I'm saying. Yeah. And there's lots of masks on the market that that they're super expensive or super less expensive, and they will do the job, and they're actually easier to change the filter out and carry more filters than having a full up mask. All right, I'll shut up.
Well, it kind of on that, in the last mask that you talked about in that video, and that link to that video is below too. But the last one you talked about will fit one of those 40 millimeter canisters, but as well, it will also fit something, a different canister as well, right? And that is pretty affordable. Correct?
Oh yeah, actually, I think that I either paid $25 or $35 for that mask. I just stumbled across it. I was like, wait a minute, and you start reading all the capabilities that are on the old wish list there on Amazon, and it's like, wait a minute, this thing can take both of what? Yeah, so that thing could literally take all the filters that were on all of the masks that I showed in that video. It could use them if it wanted to.
Yeah, it's very cool. It is a really cool video. Real quick in the chat, Highlander was talking about design masks for dogs. You'd make a killing. Pardon my pun. I'd buy 5 of them right there, or right now. Yeah.
Well, that
would be interesting.
Masks for dogs.
They do.
They do. They're expensive,
okay.
And they're on the military level, but they do make masks for dogs.
See, like Doomsday Dog with the big big mask on.
It's just like a goggle. You may have seen some pictures for Special Forces jump dogs. They actually have goggles that they wear when they jump out of the planes with the dogs. Well, it looks just like that, but that actually has a mask that goes over it. Almost looks like a very large what do they call it? The anti-bite device they put on their muzzle. It looks like a large muzzle, but they do make them.
Yeah, that's hilarious. One last thing, what I kind of thought about when I was watching this video too is something that I use all the time, and it's not really in the same category, but this mask right here, it's called an RZ mask. This is something I use when I'm out cleaning out the chicken coop, when I'm out moving horse crap with my tractor and it's a windy day. This type of mask, it lays flat. You could fit it in your bug out bag. It filters, I believe they're trying to get NOIAS or whatever that agency is, certification, where they're basically certified a little bit better than the N95 mask, where N95s, I think they filter down to 0.3 microns, and these ones will actually go down to 0.1. So
yeah.
These, and let me scroll down and you can see the filter, how the filters are made up. Not the same thing. So don't get me wrong, everyone. It's not the same as a full blown gas mask, but it's got the activated carbon, cotton liner, whatever filtration media means. I don't know, that could mean 100 different things, and a soft inner liner. So these are like $15, and the extra filters in there are like $8. So they're just really affordable and convenient. And like you were talking about, the other ones are sort of overkill as far as what preppers might need them for. But if you're in a bug out situation, maybe a wildfire, something like that, a mask like this would work. Even the respirator would work better. But you don't need that $300 mask is what I'm saying. But
yeah, exactly.
Just kind of know what what you need it for.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but it's like as guys, we kind of screw up sometimes, and we don't read the instructions. And some people buy masks and they don't realize that they don't filter smoke. There's a lot of masks that don't filter smoke. So you actually have to read that and find out what the rating is and see if you're buying something that's actually going to accomplish the task that you need it to accomplish.
Yeah. And that very well could be the case with the RZ mask. And I am one of those guys if it is.
You don't need these instructions.
Yeah. But it just is a one of those convenient, cheap masks, but it is not the same thing. So if you are looking at something, for larger scale things, but at the same time, like you were talking about, those full blown military style masks, they're, it'd be cool to have. I mean, I'm going to get one and do a review on it and show what it can do and all that stuff. But the opportunities for you to actually use that in a normal civilian style life here in the United States, even as bad as we think things are pretty far and few between.
Oh,
but you never know. So I mean, if you want to and you got the money, do what you need to do. Might as well go big.
Exactly.
One last thing on that video. One thing I do like about your channel and your videos and stuff, and I didn't really tell you about this, so I'm kind of springing you on this. The end of your videos, and I don't know if you do it with all of them, but you do a blooper reel. And I think this is hilarious because I know exactly how this feels, because every time, and I think anybody who creates videos knows exactly how this feels. So I'm just going to play this little clip right here and show everybody what it's like creating these videos for you. The kind of the behind the scenes real story here. Let me play this.
Okay.
Waiting for the truck to go by, 'cause it's so damn noisy. Next up is the GVS SPR 660 ellipse integral. I got my notes over here. Intra low profile mask with Google with natural vapors, as well as fallout. If you wear gas mat, if you want a gas mat, they also have a secondary filter system right here that you can pop this. You can play with them a little bit, and then you can actually go ahead and put them inside your, what the f is that thing called? What the hell is that thing called? Yep, that's what we're doing. We're waiting for the truck to go by. You're going to see everything that's inside my bug out bag. Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah. No.
See, I couldn't do bloopers because with me, it'd just be me throwing stuff across the room, throwing my hat off, getting all mad. And yeah.
Well, you know, I started putting them on. No, I don't put a blooper reel at the end of every one of them, but I started putting them on because people started asking me, like, you should make a bloopers reel. And I was like, do you have any idea how much work that is to go back through, to make a video and then go back through every single minute of that particular whatever, you know, one video that you made for 15 minutes long, but you've got an hour's worth of reel, you know. Now you got to go back and remember where they are. It's like triple the work. So I just decided I would start doing it when it was applicable. You know, I just did a video today on making medicine, what is it, what the heck is it, oregano oil. Lots of great things for your body. But you know, there was some bloopers at the end of that, and it was like, yeah, they're not that great. So they already know, I don't care. So I don't need to make a blooper reel for that. Anyhow.
Well, and you do live videos, and I do live videos. So that's basically, you get the blooper reel, you get everything, you know, right there, live, uncut, unedited, and all that stuff. So yeah, we just have to figure out a way to kind of keep things going, instead of when we're editing, we kind of stop and we think about stuff, or cuss myself out, and it's like, you know, your brain just stops sometimes.
Well, in that one right there with that vehicle, and I mean, I put a disclaimer at the beginning of the video. Is basically there's a field that is maybe 200 yards in front of where I was filming, and they were running the manure truck on it, and it was just like, and that's what I would have to wait for. He would drive up until when I could just barely hear him, and then I would start to record, or I would start to do the work. And then as he was coming back, I'd hear him, and I'd have to stop.
Yeah.
And it was just constant process. It took me almost an hour to make that 15-minute video.
Yeah, that's hilarious. All right. So the next part, now we'll start the show that I actually had planned.
Serious.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about how serious this whole show is going to be, but this is the part, if I can find my notes here. I guess I don't need my notes. You also did a video. I guess we're just going to do this whole show talking about all the videos you've just done.
Great.
Yeah. But the one video that I actually did want to talk about before you did this one yesterday was prepper anxiety. And I thought that was a really interesting subject, because it is something that we all, you know, whether it's, you know, built into us in the first place, and that's why, or that kind of lends itself to preparedness, or we're looking at all this crap. We're looking at all this bad stuff. We're looking at everything that can happen. And it makes us, you know, some of us just want to go into our shell and all that. Explain what you were talking about. You were taking some questions from people in that video, right?
Yeah, well, it started as a conversation within our Discord, and I just figured that it would be a great opportunity to address it because lots of times when people don't talk about the things that we should be talking about, they just kind of get dusted over, and it's like, oh, look at this piece of gear that I bought, or my plan is to do this, and what look at my radio and things like that. But they don't actually think about the intangible qualities that are necessary to persevere, in what I call a crisis scenario. Um, and it was just a conversation that started, and then as usual, everybody joined in, which was great, and then we just kind of had to make it was my intention to make people realize that anxiety is fear, and we're going to have it. It's actually part of our nature as preppers. We don't know it, and we 90% of the time, I don't prep because I'm scared. I prep because I'm not scared, and it's like, okay, dude, listen, you clearly failed, high school psychology, because anxiety is fear, and everybody has fear, and you have two choices. You can either turn it into courage, or you can fall to it. And that's just the way it happens. But you have to realize and admit that it's there. It's like a 12-step process. Some people know what that is, others don't. But the first one is admitting that you have a problem, and the problem is that fear is the mind killer. If you know that movie, fear is it's generally broken down. As far as preppers go, fear is generally broken down into like basically like five things that I can think of, and one is the fear of the unknown. The other is a fear of not being prepared enough. Then an odd one, the fear of being ostracized, because you're a crazy prepper, you know. And then some of the basic ones like the fear of societal collapse, and then eventually the fear of being targeted. If we've been in this game long enough, we know about the werewolf preppers, you know. Yeah, those are basically the five ones that I think about, and then I kind of focus on when people talk about anxiety, and just the goal to try and help them out. So
Yeah.
that's what that video is really about.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because if the first off acknowledging that does exist and that you do need to address those different things, because if you go in thinking you're Superman and thinking that you're 100% prepared for everything that's going to come your way no matter what, bring it on, kind of the Arnold Schwarzenegger type thing. Good luck. It's not Hollywood. It's not going to work out that way. But if you go in with that mindset of understanding how things may actually realistically evolve or whatever, I think you've got a much better chance at getting through that stuff and sort of, embrace those feelings, that stress and and it's different for a lot of people, I suppose. Some people are really good under those pressure type situations. Some people are not. And I think if you're one of those people that are not, there are classes and things that you can take, active, I don't want to say active shooting, but active shooting, I suppose, drills, first aid classes where they actually put you in the middle of it. Those things that get your adrenaline pumping and put you in those pressure situations. That's a way to kind of feel how that's going to go. And then you'll have a little bit more confidence, I think, and be a little less stressed out about those situations, because honestly, we're always stressed about, like you were talking about, the unknown. Anything we do, whether it's prepping or not, you're always kind of stressed, or I tend to anyway. I'll overthink the crap out of stuff before I even go into it. And it's usually nothing like that. So, and I think prepping is the same way. And we do that all the time with all the different disaster scenarios and all the different, I need this, or what am I going to do? I've got to have that, but I don't have the money. And the prepping itself leads to so much just being stressed out. And I think we need to just kind of take a step back and just go, hey man, you know what? I can do what I can do. I'm going to survive what I can survive, do the best I can. And, but that's kind of easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah. And there's actually a drill, it's one of the things, so we were actually talking about this on the live stream today, and I told him I didn't really want to talk much too in detail about it because I wanted to save most of it for today's show. So one of the things that you can do is called mental visualization, and people can't, not everybody can afford to go do a first responders class, to take an EMT class, or just basically take 2 breaths without having to work 20-hour days. Some people just don't have the time or inclination to do it, so one of the things that I tell people to do, and because the way our brains are wired, we can trick ourselves into believing that we know how to do stuff. We do it all the time, but when it comes down to doing it, we kind of freeze up because we didn't go through the visualization process. It's actually a technique that's used by the Blue Angels. And what happens is before they actually get in their planes to either do a training flight or to do a show, they all sit down at a conference room, and the leader does all of his speaking, and they have their hands on the table. They're holding the joystick in their hand. They're doing the hand motions that they're going to do in the air. And then what they'll do is all the commands are done. They're all sitting there. It's actually kind of awesome to watch. And they're all sitting there doing this stuff with their eyes closed, sitting in a conference room. And that way, when they get into the cockpits and go do these things, it almost all turns into muscle memory. And what they're doing is they're through mental visualization, they're actually training their brains to do things that they've never done before. They have to do that before they go fly for the first time with the Blue Angels. So the technique does work. And you can do the same exact thing. Okay, so if I close my eyes, I'm going to visualize, how am I going to start a fire? Well, I'm going to reach into my pack and I'm going to try and find a lighter because that's the smartest thing to do. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to do this. You see what I'm saying? You can mentally train yourself to do stuff you've never done before. And that creates a sense of muscle memory. And that can actually take away from the fear of what you're doing.
Yeah. So if you can't take those classes, and I think Silver Lining said, oops, chat jumped on me. I got the wrong comment there. Silver Lining said, where are those classes? I've got a guy coming on the show next week who is a firearms instructor. And he's going to talk about that. Like you were talking about, some of them, if you just don't have the money, some of them can get kind of expensive. Somebody in the chat also said FEMA. You can go to, take some Stop the Bleed courses for real. It's not too bad. I think for pretty cheap and stuff like that. But doing what you were talking about, you need to kind of train yourself on what to make sure you're doing it the correct way. But yeah, you can do it yourself. And that goes into the drills and the planning that we do as preppers, and whether it's a bug out drill, whether it's a fire drill, whether it's some sort of other drill, we get used to doing things and we understand how those are going to go. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be it'd be better if you had an instructor to kind of tell you what you're doing right and doing wrong, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that way, to kind of help you, at least give you a little bit of confidence, right? Saying, hey, I've done this a couple times. I think I know what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
It's right up there with tourniquets. Unless you've actually trained to use a tourniquet, you're going to be like, how does this really work? Is it set up correctly? Am I doing it right? God forbid you have to use a tourniquet on yourself and you haven't set it up correctly, or even practice putting one on. So it does help. It's all about that training that most preppers never do. But if they would just take 10 minutes out of their day, just write it down someplace. So today I'm gonna practice putting my tourniquet on and setting it up and putting it where it belongs.
Yeah.
Check mark, you're done. And that creates that thing in your brain that says, I can do that.
Yeah. And arguably that's more important than a lot of the supplies and everything. And I say this all the time, but those types of things are going to get you they're going to get you through situations a lot. I don't want to say better or a lot. I don't know exactly how I want to phrase this, but they're going to get you further through situations if you understand how everything might evolve. And if you understand how to do things, rather, if you have a survival knife, that's fantastic, right? But if you don't know how to do anything with it, all you've seen is like the Rambo movie, and that's how you're going to use your knife. It's about that good for you, to point at somebody and tell them to get away from me.
Yeah, exactly.
So as far as, like, we were talking about this last night with Pete over at the Roaming Prepper, and as far as the new prepper, and the anxiety and the, you know, somebody getting into this. I was talking to him last night, and I try to think about that when I do videos in my channel, and you know, sort of talking to that person that has no idea what we do, because to us and to even, you know, our audience that's been listening to us for a while, this is all just kind of normal stuff, right? It doesn't really bring up a lot of anxiety. It's almost therapy a little bit talking about this stuff. But to the new person that comes in and listens to this, it's probably, especially if they listen to me and Brian's show, holy moly, but it's probably, you know, a little bit daunting to them, right? So what advice, I suppose my whole point here is, what advice would you give that person that's just getting into this, as far as avoiding all the, you know, the fear porn and the craziness, and just getting down to the important stuff? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I mean, see, that's one of those amorphous questions that are it's always about the situation. You know, I tell people, listen, you just start with a gear list. Just start with a goal of maybe a 72-hour kit, because anybody can go on Amazon and buy anything. Now, they're going to get bogged down with, you know, there's about 1 million videos on YouTube. It's 172 items to make the ultimate bug out bag. And it's like, oh my God, who even thought of this? I actually watched one. I joke about it, but I actually watched one that made me start to think about bug out bags, where this guy is like, this is my bug out bag. And it's like a little 20-liter bag, right? It's like one of those little 511 bags. And he starts like, and this is what's in it. He never shows you taking anything out of the bag. He's just like grabbing stuff and putting it in front of you. There's a link below. And it's like this effect where he was just doing this. I was like, wait a minute. How did he get that? How did he get that Jackery 1000 inside that little bag?
Yeah, pulling the rabbit out of the hat type thing.
Exactly. It was amazing. It was the bottomless bag. And I was just like, man, there's just so many of these videos out there. So, you know, I tell people, just keep it simple. 10, 12 items, just the simplest thing, you know, a flashlight, a first aid kit, enough water for 2 gallons of water for you for 3 days, water purification, some Bic lighters. It's like $263 for 5 of them, you know, a simple food list, you know, a little bit of bag rice, some mashed potatoes, beans, canned fruit. I mean, the list goes on. But if you just have these basic things that you can I can literally go online and order them at Walmart and pick them up in $4 for less than $210.
Yeah.
And then once you have those things, then it's like and these things on this list are not like a bunch of crazy gear. They're the basics, like a fixed, you know, like a fixed blade knife, like an emergency radio where you can listen to NOAA, you know, a portable power bank that's big enough to put in your pocket. Just the simplest things. And now you have not only the confidence to start to grow as a prepper, because now you know, I have what I need for 72 hours. Time to start the next goal. The next goal is a week. The next goal is a month. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And then getting into, I have something I call the 6-can method. Man, that sun is really getting me. I have something called the 6-can method, where every time I go to Walmart, every time, it doesn't matter if I go in there to pick up a box of Twizzlers, I go and buy 6 cans of something. And I tell you what, after about a month, you got a lot of food.
Yeah.
You got a lot of food, and people are worried, you know, if they lose their job, are they going to eat? You know, if they're still worried about their phone working, if they're still worried about what they're going to watch on TV, you know, if they're still worried about anything other than water, food, and security, then they probably shouldn't be preppers. They should probably be spending their money as crazily as possible, you know. And then once they get there, they should probably start looking at the things that they already have in their house that they can use for preparedness. And then they should start looking at their skill sets. You know, I think there should be a balance. I love these guys when I talk to, it's like, you should probably have this, and this at the minimum. Well, I'm going to walk into the woods with my buck knife and I'm going to survive off the land. I says, yeah, well, did you know that during the Great Depression that almost every single deer in the United States was killed?
Yeah.
Because that's what people did. They went into the woods and they survived until there weren't any more deer, you know? So that philosophy doesn't work either, you know? So there should be a balance between skills and preps. You know, I'm not a big fan of tactical. I did enough of that in my life. I do have the capability. I do have the tools and the skills, but that's never something I actually talk about on my channel, which is kind of funny. People are dying for me to tell stories, but I don't do it because that's not who I am anymore. This thing works really, really well, really, really well. So,
yeah. Hear you. Yeah, I think it's interesting what you mentioned in the beginning about all these. You're new to prepping, and you can go to all these different websites, and it's like everybody's got to outdo everybody else, right? So there's I mean, I even have an article, 101 ways to use a bandana. That is ridiculous. But it's on there because it's just you're looking for content. You're looking for stuff to do. Now, I don't do a whole lot of that. Some people do a whole lot of that. Yeah. But really, it is about the basics. I've told people, I've got a friend of mine that was interested in it, and I told him, just put together, go research bug out bags. Not because you're going to bug out, but because it's a micro preparedness kit. It teaches you about all the different areas of preparedness, why they're important. And then when you go research preparedness and you start to figure out how much food you need and all that stuff, you've got an idea of what you're looking at and why you're looking at it, rather than, being that guy that freaks out, that person that freaks out, and all of a sudden they go buy, 3 years worth of long-term food storage, stick it in their basement, and then feel like they're good to go. Not going to happen.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, is I've noticed that when it comes to preparedness, most people, it does have a lot to do with the money. They don't really think their way through it. And if we all had $1 million, well, that's what we would do. We'd call a major company, and we'd have them bring it in by the crate, and we'd stick it in our bunker that's underneath our house, and we'd live on pool water for the next 5 years, but there's not a lot of people that are like that. And so you have to really pinch your pennies. You have to look for the best deals, and you have to buy the stuff that is the most applicable. It's, for instance, I like machine guns, but I can't afford one, but I also don't need one right now. So it's kind of that mindset.
Yeah. And with prepping, there is a lot of toys, man. There are so many toys. But yeah. I've got my whole wall behind me too. Yeah. And that's just the display stuff. But there are a lot of toys, and you really do, because we can basically justify anything. Hey, this has got a preparedness purpose. This has got a preparedness purpose. We could justify anything. But being honest with yourself about, hey, is this really where the best place to spend my money is right now? Some people, if you've got enough money, it doesn't matter, good for you. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
I've got to make sure I'm, being smart about where it's going, because especially these days with everything that's going on, you just no idea that nothing could happen. And then something could happen before we even end this show. We just don't even know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So real quick, anyone in the chat, if you guys do have a question, maybe write it in all caps and I'll see it in there. Or if I don't answer you and it's been a while, maybe re-put it in there and all that. What are you laughing at?
Somebody just put a question. This is situational awareness. LP, what's the giraffe used for?
Hey, you know what? That does, kind of stick out like a sore thumb in your background. You got the jackeries back there. You got, and then you got a giraffe.
Okay, so
I'm curious now. What's it for?
So you just made me go into prepper brain mode. That is what I call decorative firewood. But
decorative
the truth is, it was a gift. My girlfriend's an artist, and her brother bought that for her for Christmas. It was interesting getting it home.
How is that pretty tall?
Yeah, it's like, it goes, I'd say it's 7 feet. It's a giraffe.
Okay. Because all you can see is like the top part of it right there. So
no, it goes all the way to the floor, bro.
That is hilarious. I can see you driving down the street, that sucker hanging out your window or whatever.
we were able to make it fit inside the vehicle, but it's a good sized vehicle. So
yeah. I don't even remember where we are anymore. Oh yeah. I was talking about, anybody has any questions in the chat, even questions like that. Let them know. Frank said, I don't know if this is a question or not, but I'm going to pull it up. Do preppers still buy Geiger counters like survivalists back in the 70s and 80s? Or is that not so common anymore? I'll let you answer that. And we probably have a similar answer, but go ahead and answer that.
They do still buy them, but the ones that you used to be able to get for free from the civil defense, the National Civil Defense Agency, the yellow boxes that you envision, the radometers, they're actually very, very expensive. So people still do buy them. I think you can actually buy them on Amazon, but you can also buy these smaller ones. Rad meters that you can like clip on. They're about the size of a beeper. And they'll make a noise if the radiation levels get too high. And then you can also buy these rad cards that will change colors. They're almost like a pH card. You can also buy those on Amazon too, but I believe they're like $20 a card. They're the size of a credit card. And you wear them like you would wear like a security badge. And if a certain segment of them change color, then hey, you've just got a dose of radiation up to this level. So I think that's pretty much all I know about that. I mean, I don't want to buy one. I don't need one.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I am too. I mean, I could see where they would have their use, but again, it's that. Is that the best place for me to spend my money right now? And I just don't think it is. They do have those old yellow ones. I can't remember what the website is. You can get them for like $150 or something like that. But you also have to get them calibrated.
Correct.
Because most of them, if you buy it off eBay or whatever, it needs to be calibrated to function properly. So it's a whole, it's just a lot of work to get one of those. But yeah, there's these days with the advancements in technology and all that, there are a lot of different things you could do if that is a concern. Those cards, even though they're single use, may be something you'd want to do. Put those away and be able to, if something did kick off and you were concerned about something like that, you could slap one of those on. And granted, I don't know what you do about it if you look down and your card was, the wrong color.
Actually, there's a tactical technique and procedure for that. If you look down and your card is the wrong color, you go in the opposite direction.
Yeah. So sort of on that, and again, any more questions, just let me know. We'll break and talk about it. But sort of on that, we've got the war in Ukraine. You've got China popping its head up. You've got Russia and China sort of kind of, teaming up together. You've got our economy, just dumping on us. And you've got the government basically trying to get the economy dumping on us. So in my opinion, anyway, so they can pull in the digital currency. So when it comes to all the things, I don't know about, threat level or anything, but if you had to rate things like by priority, what are some of the ones that are sort of at the top of your list right now, other than all of them?
Yeah, exactly. The top of my list. I mean, I did create a list. I am a prepper, and I do own a few tinfoil hats. But I would probably say right now, believe it or not, it's not Ukraine. I mean, China is our biggest geopolitical threat. But I would say that our biggest threat right now is technology. Technology, it's greatly impacted our ability to prepare for emergencies. For example, social media has made it easier to disseminate information quickly. And GPS technology has made it easier to track people and resources in real time. Now, without going into tinfoil hat land, what does this really mean when we start talking about technology and preppers? Well, we go back to fear, we go back to worrying, we go back to anxiety. What's on the horizon? A digital currency. We think it's a different subject. It's not, because with digital currency comes digital ID. That's how they have to do it. They can't do it any other way. And then there's the new one is the Restrict Act. And it's supposed to be the TikTok Act. But it's really all about technology, and both of them are about control. We would like to believe that with the central bank digital currencies that the government would never do anything nefarious, guys. We just want to make sure that no one steals all your money. Well, and we don't have that problem. We've already got the FDIC, and very few of us have over $250,000 in the bank. So we're already protected. Well, we want to make you more protected. And the way we're going to do it is to make you use zeros and ones and give us your identity so we can protect you. And that's a problem. And then all the stuff that's coming out now about the Restrict Act, it kind of they kind of dovetail together in that they it doesn't say anything about TikTok in the Restrict Act at all. They don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk about banning it. It doesn't talk about anything. It literally talks about our ability to control and monitor, and even put you in prison for doing the things that we do all the time. So it's kind of scary that with that technological noose would be coming around us so quickly. And the worst part is it's coming from within. It's not China. It's not Ukraine. It's not Russia. It's not somebody trying to steal our technology. It's our own government trying to put the noose around our necks and make us comply to their way of thinking.
You know what's crazy about that too is just a year or two ago, right? We're thinking, oh, that's how they do things in China. And we were like, hey man, it could come here. And everybody was like, nah, that's some China crap. You think about everything that you just talked about and the digital currency, their ability to track us. The reason this Restrict Act is going through is because they need to be able to track us. It's the same exact stuff they do in China. With BlackRock and Vanguard and all this ESG stuff and the social justice crap going on. And basically they're holding companies ransom if you don't promote this woke agenda. You're not going to get, we're not going to be lending you money or whatever. And they basically hold companies ransom. Same thing that China does. Yeah. If you don't toe the company line, you're not going to be able to play the game. And we're seeing all of that stuff here in the United States. So I think, it's all of that is, and it's not like it might, or we can stop it. Maybe we have a slight chance to stop the Restrict Act, but this digital currency, it's coming. This AI and all of that stuff, it's coming. So I've said this for the past 3 weeks on every show. I think I've done is I think we're doomed. I mean, as far as the America that I know and love, I think it is going to change more in the next decade than I think it has in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Because of all this.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, it's, without going too deep down the rabbit hole, but it's basically political polarization, and it does affect our ability to prepare because it's, when we get divided along political lines, which we've never been more divided ever in my lifetime. Okay. It can be difficult to reach a consensus on anything, let alone preparedness or even to, it can really hinder us during a crisis event. It's, as Americans, we've always been able to, like when something really bad happened, say 9/11, right? We just instantly came together. Nobody cared what color you're affiliate with. They didn't care if there's an R or D next to your name. They just came together. It's like, let's go kick their asses.
Yeah.
Because that's the American way. But the problem is that political polarization has led to a couple of things. And one of them is, public trust, trust in the government, public institutions, and it's been declining, for a while now. And that can affect your preparedness plans. When we don't trust our government or institutions, we're less likely to participate in preparedness efforts. And it sounds weird, but once again, we go back to the Restrict Act, and then it also goes, if you don't accept their progressive views, then you're going to pay, and now we're talking about the CBDCs and stuff like that. But, I was just reading today, no joke, there is an app, and you would think this was some lefty stuff. And I hate to go down that route, and I'm not going to talk much more on it, but if there's actually an app that's coming out, I just read about it. It's a product that is going to send you real-time texts about products that might be offensive to conservatives.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Basically the Bud Light, and it's so ridiculous because this is what is going. It's not just it going on. It's not just that it's leached into our life. It's that we as preppers kind of know this is coming our way and there's nothing we can do to stop it.
Yeah.
How do we prepare for something we can't prepare for? And so it's kind of like, it's very perplexing for most people in the preparedness community.
Yeah. I tell you what, this TikTok generation, millennials get a hard time or have historically gotten a hard time. My kids are millennials, and I think that really depends on the parent, how bad or lazy or whatever they were. My kids are good kids. They're definitely different than we were growing up, but they're good kids. But I'll tell you what, I've got no hope for this latest generation, this social media generation that doesn't know what it's like to talk to people face to face, have human interaction. I think that may be, a part of the reason why society is sort of the way it is, because people just feel like they can do whatever they want, say whatever they want. Everybody needs to, worry about my feelings and all that. And maybe that's me being an old man, but I just don't get. I have no faith in where this is all leading. And it leads right into the hands of the government, the World Economic Forum, all these people that want these little sheep to come along and for them to be able to save them. Because once reality hits these kids that basically can say and do whatever they want these days, once the reality of life hits them, they're going to be looking for somebody to help them. And the only one there is going to be the almighty government and all that stuff. So I don't know. That's maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon.
No. Listen, man, I want to live. I want to sit on my porch in my rocking chair with my rocket launcher and screw everybody else. That's what I want to do, But it's this goes to there's a couple things that are happening that I've noticed is there has been especially on the little 1 minute video, different platforms. But there has actually been a very gentle attack on Gen Xers because we're the generation that lived outside. We were kicked outside. We drank from water hoses. We played in the woods with our friends, or we played in the streets and we came home when the street lights came on, and because we were kind of ignored as kids, so we're just a little bit tougher. So now what they're doing is they're attacking us because they know that we're tougher than they are. And, the proof is in the pudding. We've had a lot of bad people in the government, but, perfect example is this 21-year-old kid from the Air National Guard there in Massachusetts who decided to do all this crazy stuff with, Discord and secrets and things like that. And it was all just so that he was basically building online street cred. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He didn't, we could go deep and say he didn't take his oath seriously. He didn't take his job seriously. We could do that. That would be old curmudgeon stuff. But here in the new generation, what he basically did was he got punked out and everybody knows it now. And that's all he wanted is for people not to know it. So it just it blows up in their face when they do these things. And, we see it as weakness. That's how we were brought up. If those kids that tried to get into our little cliques when we were their age, they'd have been like, hey, go play in the street, man.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened. So there are generational issues, but I've always been a believer that I can work with pretty much anybody right up to the point where they're just not good for the group anymore.
Yeah. And there is something to be said too about those with the loudest voices are the ones that are going to be heard. Those are the ones that are screaming and yelling and acting out. They're the ones that are making the news clips. They're the ones that are getting, the attention on social media. So it may not, like teachers and that whole issue. It's not all the teachers, but the ones that are doing the crazy stuff are the ones that are getting the headlines. So it may not be the whole generation, but it's that what is the saying I'm trying to think of here? I'm drawing a damn blank while I'm trying to talk. Weak men create hard times. That's what I'm trying to say. My goodness. That only took me 30 seconds.
Yeah. That one, I actually forget about that one all the time because it's like a 4-stanza poet or a piece of poetry. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So back, we kind of went down a different rabbit hole there, but back with that digital currency you were talking about, how do you see that changing our ability to prepare and how we prepare? Because it used to be that, if you wanted a certain amount of ammo, you wanted to buy a gun, you took a few $100 bills and you went and got it. Mm-hmm. These days you could still do that, or you can put it on your credit card if you want. Pretty soon, it seems like, and maybe you get your answer or your thoughts on this, how long until the cash is non-existent? But how does that change your ability to prepare as far as them being able to track, say it comes to the point where this whole equality thing and equity and all that, where if you're buying a certain amount of food per month that is 3 or 4 times the amount you actually need, what radar are you getting on? And I think this is absolutely feasible. It may sound outrageous to some people, but I think this is absolutely feasible. How do you think that digital currency, anyway, my whole point, how do you think that digital currency is going to affect our ability to prepare and buy things and, just get the things that we get done now in the future?
Okay, so in the future, the only way you're going to get around that stuff is by using my 6-can method, because they're not going to pick up on that.
Yeah,
okay?
Small increments.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it small, and purchase things that are not going to be on the radar. Eventually everything will have a code. If you're following the news, you know that on credit cards, that if you buy a firearm, there's actually a code on the credit cards now.
Yep.
So they know you bought a firearm. Okay. Ammunition, I believe there's one for that. So when I first started, so I'm one of those people, when I first started prepping, I was like, the world is ending. I don't care. And here are all of my credit cards. So I ended up buying a lot of very expensive food and things like that. All those things that we would call a mistake. Okay. But I mean, I still have the food, so I don't know how much and I did get out of debt. So I don't know how much of a mistake. I would say that I did it right. It was a bad decision that I made into a good thing. Now, it's all about the timeline with these CBDCs. How are we going to get around CBDCs? Well, the first thing is we have to stop screwing around. Okay. And I talk about this a lot during the live streams. And because we do talk about CBDCs a lot, people are like, well, what do we do? What do you do? And they're like looking to me for the answers. And I was like, stop screwing around. You need to be creating the environment that you can thrive in. And how do we do that? Well, we stop thinking about everything as a credit. If we don't carry cash anymore, we have these little cards that are hooked to our bank account, and so we're basically almost a cashless society anyway. And people would be there. One side would say, well, we're already there, so it doesn't really matter. And the other side would be like, yeah, it's all fun and games until, they say, well, you've already bought enough food for the month, and is that possible? Yeah, it's very possible. But I'm starting to spin off in left field. Let me get focused.
I do that all the time.
You should be creating the environment in which you can thrive, which means creating relationships that are local that you can use later on. Okay. For instance, the guy that I know who knows everything in this little town that I moved to is the barber. I know this guy. I give him, he gives me a $7 haircut. I give him a $20 bill and I walk out. I'm building a relationship with him. He's going to be the guy that knows everything. Okay. The guy who works on the car down at your local auto repair place. I know this guy. He takes care of me. I take care of him. He doesn't even know my last name, and we're taking care of each other because we're building a relationship. You know what I'm saying? So when things go sideways, how much do I owe you? Nothing. I'll see you later. And then you remember that. And when he needs something, you take care of him. And that's how you get around these things, because the next step is the barter and trade. People talk about barter items all the time. It's like, that's great. But, I can, a dozen chicken eggs isn't going to put a new muffler on my car. It's just not going to happen, but a dozen chicken eggs might buy me, get me a gallon of milk from the local farmer that I made a friend from. And that's how we get around these CBDCs. The only other way right now, and if you really want to put the tinfoil hat on, they're talking about May, June, July timeframe for these things to start being implemented, and then the deep preppers are like, well, we got to get everything now. We got to get everything now before it's too late. Before they tell me I can't buy enough stuff. And that's when they'll start to break out those credit cards. And then there's 100 ways to look at this. But the only way to truly do it is to prepare an environment in which you can thrive. If you don't, then you're just going to get to survive, and survival sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Tell you what, if I could afford, if I thought it was, going to get to that point, one, I wouldn't be maxing out my credit card. That's just not the right way to go about things. And two, I'd already be in a bunker in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
So, yeah. A couple guys brought up a Grumpy Acres Farm. Cool name.
I know him. You slacker. Damn jarheads. What's
Doug Reese, they were both talking about community and trading and bartering and things like that. And I think it is, and you sort of alluded to it too. It's kind of like that show, Barter Kings. You ever see that? Where they start with something small.
Yeah, I remember that.
They start with a dozen eggs and all of a sudden they end up with a muffler. So you could, do things like that. But if you start building that group of people that do want to do things like that, you can sort of get that alternative, you're not going to be able to fulfill every need with a little economy like that, but you can get some things done. I think, was it JK in the chat said, somebody was talking about something that I can't even remember now because I'm reading these other comments. So anyway, but yeah, it is just things that I think as preppers, we never really had to think about that stuff. When we thought about bartering and we thought about doing things like this, it was post SHTF or during.
Yeah.
These days, it's almost prior, setting ourselves up to that. Oh, I remember somebody in the chat, I think it was Liberated Lady, or somebody, I don't know. They were talking about how if you need ammo and your friend needs, extra food or whatever, maybe this time you buy food for them and he buys ammo for you and you kind of mix it up so it doesn't look like that's a little bit, that's some mind mapping stuff going on there to get that grocery list going. But
then you both get to be on the list.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it is, they are things that we sort of need to at least be thinking about these days because it could be on the horizon. I mean, the digital currency is on the horizon. The fact that they want to do that is to be able to track everything we do. And they want to, but because, the more money they can squeeze out of us, the less, we can get away with, the more that they can just blow and give away to other countries and do whatever they want. So, that's what they want to do. And then with this whole green agenda thing and the social currency or social credit score or whatever you want to call it, all of that stuff going on, they want to be able to track all of that stuff as well, which means our every move, not just what we spend. So it's, I've said this a few times too, but I'm sort of glad, and I don't say this about too many things, but I'm sort of glad I'm older because that means, like my kids, I feel bad for my kids because they're in their 20s and 30s. And when they're my age, this is going to be a completely different world that they're living in. Yeah. Now, maybe it doesn't go as bad as I think it's going to. I hope it doesn't, but I don't have much faith in that. Luckily for me, I'll be probably sitting in the old folks home wearing my adult diaper, watching this crap go down on the news while I'm eating my Jell-O.
With your grenade launcher.
Yeah, with my
your
grenade
rocket
launcher. Yeah,
I want a rocket launcher.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to figure out how they're gonna let me in the old folks home, or maybe I'm gonna have to have a hospice nurse come to the house or something, or maybe I'll just be batshit crazy and they'll just tell me I have one at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we put it under the bed, Dale. Yeah,
I'm gonna sleep with it.
All right, a couple questions. If you guys have any in the chat, let us know, and then I think we're gonna get out of here. But this one from Frank said, "I can't get others to prepare, but once things get very bad, everyone will learn want to learn what to do." Yeah, and that's typical human reaction to everything, right? It's sort of like Y2K and everyone going out buying generators, and then after that, or even the pandemic, everyone stocking up on masks and things like that, and then after it's over, my website, the stats went through the roof right after that started. Now it's back to nothing, and that's just human nature. That's the way people are. They're reactionary and don't take the time beforehand to, prepare for this stuff. And that's where, sort of like you talked about in the beginning, that's where we get labeled the nut jobs, is because we are thinking about this stuff. We are doing those things.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the fears, but here's the one of the ways that I tell people to deal with that. You're always going to run into people that are either going to be like, "Hey, I'm coming to your house when the shit goes down," or they're like, "You're crazy." And I just tell them, said, "Listen, you're welcome at my house, but make sure that you bring 3 months worth of food, a whole buttload of water, and lots of pew pew, and then hopefully you'll have a few skills. But if not, you're going to make a great night watchman, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the only way you're showing up. And if you show up any other way, you're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a bad day."
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation right there. The whole SHTF factor and how things line up, and really don't know the correct answer to all that. It really depends on so many factors about how things evolve during any sort of disaster situation that it's really impossible to. You just kind of have to get your ducks in a row as much as possible beforehand and just go for it and just cross your fingers. All right. Do you have anything else tonight before we get out of here, LP?
I don't think so. It's been a great time, man. Thanks for inviting me on. Obviously anytime, I'll be happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a fun conversation. Like we talked about before the show, we'll have to get you on with the survival preppers too. Me, you, and Brian. That will be chaos. That'll be controlled chaos. That'll be a fun show. That may be 2 hours, but it'll be a hell of a 2 hours. That's for sure.
Gotcha.
With that, everyone, I've got LP's links in the chat below. Make sure go subscribe to his channel. It's got a lot of really cool stuff over there. Does some live streams as well. A lot of cool videos, a lot of great knowledge about this whole preparedness thing. And you've got your Patreon group, right, where you kind of interact with your audience and all that too as well. So just very cool.
Gotcha. Oh God, it's happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone in the chat, if I can figure out how to close this out, we're going to get out of here anyway. I don't know. I'm not very good with this restream stuff yet, but I'm getting there. But at any rate, I appreciate you all joining in today. If you have any questions for me, you can just send me an email. If you have any questions for LP, just go over to his channel and make a comment on one of his videos. I'm sure he'll get back to you. But Local Prepper, I appreciate you joining today. And like you said, like I said, we will definitely be doing this again. This was too much fun.
There you go.
All right. Talk to you later, everyone. Take care and prepare and hang out, LP. We'll chat a little bit before we go.
Cool.